Morning, and thanks for making ekaboom TV part of your morning routine.
We're Ruben and Joan Romero, and today we're going to talk about training new hires.
Okay, so let's get down to business. So you've hired someone, you brought them on. What do you do?
Well, if you're like most business owners, you fly by the seat of your pants and you try to train them while doing all your other work too, and you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, or you start throwing stuff at them because you can't do it all yourself, and you hope that they can do it.
Right. Now that's what most people do. That's probably not what you should do, but that's probably what most businesses do. As you get into business, you'll realize pretty quickly that you are really flying by the seat of your pants with lots of things because you just can't know everything. There's a lot to know when you run a business, and you just can't know it. So that doesn't mean you're flying by the seat of your pants with your core things, like you don't know what you're doing, or you can't do it well, or whatever. But there will always be something that you're flying by the seat of your pants on. Whether maybe that's hiring, maybe that's training, maybe that's setting up processes, whatever that is. There's something that you're like, I don't really know how to do this, but I'm gonna do what I can to sort of kind of do it at least halfway. But I think when you have a new hire and you're looking to train them, one of the quickest and easiest ways is to have them create their own training. So if you haven't already created that training, if you have the time and the energy and the resources to create that training first, that's great. Most businesses don't have the time and energy and resources to do that. So when you bring on the new hire, you can have them start that training process. And at the very least, if that person doesn't work out, hopefully at least they were able to make the training for what they do, so that when you bring on the next person and if you have to get rid of them, that you have that training, and then that's something of value. You didn't just waste all of this time and money and energy hiring someone that will no longer be helpful to you at all. But
right,
you'll have that training to give to the next person to go on, and maybe they can even improve and add to the training too. And when you do training, I highly recommend you do it in little bits and parts. And part of the reason is because if you make a whole training about a whole process and the whole thing, if something changes, or you find out to do something better, or you find out there was a mistake in the training, you've got to do the whole thing over again. Where if you do it in little segments and processes and just sort of bunch it all up on what people do, and maybe you do something on the computer, you can make video tutorials. You don't want to make a whole video tutorial about
like an hour long
one, and then be like, oh wait, no, this is not true anymore, and
now we gotta redo the whole thing.
Yeah, you just want to edit that little part so that it can make sense, and you can make easily a Google Doc or a Word doc or whatever, and have links to all those videos or something. You even store them on Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever, and have that resource available to your people and your staff.
So ideally, you would have gone through everything yourself, written down how you do it successfully, so you can then give it to someone else.
Ideally, but usually in the business world, things don't happen in an ideal kind of way.
Usually it's kind of putting out fires. It's like, oh, now suddenly we have all these customers. Quick, get someone to help them. It's like, you're now customer service. Go serve the customers.
Go do that.
And then when they come back, because there's things you don't know, Like, well, obviously we wouldn't whatever, but then the new person's like, oh, here, I'm just supposed to help you, and here, maybe this will help you. And then you're like, no.
Don't do that.
Suddenly we need to come up with a policy or, and so make sure you write it down as you go, so when that person leaves, because yes, you told them, or you hire a second customer service person or whatever, then you can just copy and, give them the same thing, so they're both on the same page, instead of like, remember all those things we talked about over the last whatever since you've been hired? Tell all that stuff to this new person. That's
right.
Kind of how.
Or if you're going to fire someone, at that point is the most awkward time to make that training for the next employee.
we're going to fire you, but before you go, everything you do, can you please write it down?
Usually,
because I've forgotten all the stuff that you do.
Usually people don't like that. I don't know why, but they generally do not like it when you are letting them go. Or sometimes, if you wait too long to have them do that training, if you're going to have them do it, if you don't do it right away.
They start to forget what they know.
Well, not even, that is true, but they also start to think that maybe you're going to fire them. Because they think, I'm making this training, now I am replaceable. And you want that. You want your staff, you want them to be replaceable. You don't want them to be sort of critical in the operation of your business.
Yeah.
And there's a term I think that Michael Gerber uses in the E-Myth, which is a great book. We'll talk about that some other time, but it's a great book. Highly recommend it. And he talks about black boxes. Is that if you don't create the training and the processes for your staff, people will create a black box. And so what that is where they build around them things that only they know how to do. They build up systems and processes. They say, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Now, to a business owner, that sounds so good.
Great.
That sounds so awesome. Okay, this person's going to take care of it. I don't have to worry about it. Done, right?
So they're creating their job security.
They're creating a job security.
Now you can't get rid of them.
You can't get rid of them because they're the only ones that know how to use that software or how to build that kind of website or how to do these things. So anytime you have something new, you want to have them create the training for it as they go along, so that is expandable. And if they start to get worried about their job, it's not that you want to fire people. That's never the goal. It's way easier to keep good people than it is to try to find new people and replace them, and the cost involved and the time involved and the resources involved to bring someone else on is a deterrent enough for most business owners not to get rid of someone. But if they get worried about their job, you can obviously tell them that this isn't about getting rid of you. We're planning for growth. We're looking to grow, and there may become a time where we need to bring on new people and hire this. So I want to make sure we have that ready in case that growth happens faster than we expect it. And as the growth is happening, we won't have the time to create this stuff.
Yeah, so you got to plan. So ideally, you're planning ahead then for how you're training new hires, which is basically a step-by-step instruction of what they should be doing.
Ideally, yes, but rarely will are you that
forward thinking.
And,
more realistically, it's you're figuring it out with them as they're starting the job, and you're writing it down as you go, so then you're prepared for the next hire.
Yeah, and this is one of the things which is so great about a lot of franchises, is that a franchise basically has a lot of those systems, those processes done.
So here's the book.
Here's the book. Here's how you hire. Here's what you train them. Here's all this stuff. It's done. Like, you don't have to think about that. Now, it doesn't mean a franchise is a guaranteed success. It will definitely, you definitely have to work at it. You definitely still have to make it work. But it does mean that you don't have to stop and say, okay, now I've got to create training, and now I've got to, or pay someone to do training, or I've got to do, create, do these hires. I got to figure out how I'm going to hire, and all these things you've got to figure out. If you have a map and a blueprint, that's one of the great things that franchises offer to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, or at the very least, if you had a job, maybe as a teenager working at some place that's all incorporated and has all of...
You should steal all of their training.
We don't recommend stealing anything ever.
Just joking.
But you can refer back to that and say, I remember this chart on the wall, or I remember this checklist when they said, once you do this, 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 and this, then you're trained. And so you can refer back to some of that, because that will come in handy as you're trying to create something that's never existed before, which is your own business. So...
All right. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for liking, subscribing, and tell us what you think in the comments below.
Have a great day.